Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh yeah, here I be, and welcome to you. After a long weekend, it's now May 28th, and it is a Tuesday, and that means, of course, that my sister Suze should be on the line, and I'm thinking she is. Hello? Hello? Oh, God. Susan?
Here.
Oh,
I'm here.
were you talking?
I'm
Uh-oh.
here.
Yeah, you're sort of here and then you're not here. I mean, I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
You can hear me.
Yes. Okay.
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 So the closing arguments are underway. The Trump's defense is given their last shot at getting one juror to say, I don't think so. And geez, I don't know. That seems like such a low bar when you're really wanting somebody to be convicted. But whatever.
Well, it doesn't clear him. It just gives him a hung jury.
Yeah, but that's all he needs. I mean, that's all he needs. God knows he doesn't need much of anything to say, to whatever the outcome, that it was rigged, that it was
Right. It doesn't matter what you say. His story doesn't change.
No, never. So, oh God. It could be that the jury is going to get this case tomorrow. Although I'm a little confused, and I guess I haven't been paying enough attention to understand. I know that throughout they have not had court sessions on Wednesday, and yet it sounds like tomorrow there's going to be one because the jury's going to have to get its instructions and deliberate, and or the prosecution's going to have to finish up its closing arguments. Who the hell knows? I don't know. We don't know. I'm sort of taken by how this historic event, the first trial of a criminal trial of a farmer, is really not resonating with the vast majority of Americans. Certainly not. That's not true of my milieu, but it puts my milieu in its place because most Americans are not following this.
No, they aren't, and shame on them. Well, I mean, they're just so to have a president on trial for fraud. To have this guy that's been lying to us for all these years and now claims, that they've tried to assassinate him, and no one even blinks.
Yeah, no one blinks anymore.
The more outrageous the lie, the more firmly they stand behind it. So I don't know. We're just living in this really stupid alternative universe where everything that should matter doesn't.
Well, I think what we've learned is that Trump's modus operandi, which is to commit an outrageous act or statement 4 or 5 times a day, ends up inuring the vast majority of people from, noting when one is especially egregious or the toll that it takes. The fact is, yeah, he's done such damage already to the sort of collective psyche that I just don't think most people can parse it or choose to be afflicted by it, maybe. as well. I'm just not sure. I don't know. Now, Susan had said that, Trump was tweeting out, I've got the exact quote here. Again, the barrage of just outright lies intended to get his thugocracy, ready to commit revolution and or thuggery, domestic terror, whatever. So the latest was he puts out this. And this was in a fundraising email, not on his usual Truth Social. He was trying to raise money, and he was saying this about the raid on Mar-a-Lago to get the top secret documents, the documents he did not have any right to be holding, to get them from him. And he wrote this: Joe Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out and put my family in danger. He authorized the FBI to use deadly, lethal, in case they don't know what deadly means, force, all caps. Now, who takes this up and runs with it? Every right-wing media operation that exists, including Fox News. So Fox News is treating this like a regular piece of extraordinary information.
Neglecting to say that Joe Biden sent the same threat to himself.
That's
when
right.
he had the FBI, search him.
Right, because it's just it's boilerplate.
It's the standard language of the search warrant.
For any search warrant, that if deadly force is required, it can be used. And it goes into every search warrant. So there was, and in fact, as we've now learned, the FBI went out of its way to coordinate with Trump's Secret Service to ensure that Trump and his family would not be at Mar-a-Lago during the raid.
They were in New York.
Which is, it is just such a bold lie.
They were moving documents to Bellingham or wherever it is.
Yeah. I don't think it's Bellingham, but it's something like that. Bedminster.
Bedminster, right. Bellingham's in Washington State.
Where he buried his ex-wife, probably with some other documents.
Files, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people think you gotta dig up Ivana because, there's stuff in there. And you wouldn't put it past him. So actually, this last thing that he has said, this nonsense, did prompt the special prosecutor to ask the judge, Cannon, who's overseeing this particular trial, to gag Trump in this regard, that he was putting federal agents at risk by this false and incendiary verbiage. I'd be stunned if Judge Cannon were to do that, since she's been all in for Trump since day one. God.
Yeah, but if she doesn't, it might be the thing that allows them to go above her and get her thrown out.
So I saw a great yard sign yesterday. It stopped me in my tracks because I hadn't ever seen it, and it takes a second. But it simply had 3 words on it, and it said, "Make America last." Anybody?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Make America last. You bet.
And, somebody seeing it initially might, what we're used to hearing is make America great again. And
right. And yet, what do you mean you want us to be last? No, you want us to last.
Right. So I think it's a brilliant sign, and I hope it gets a little more virility. Make America last. But hadn't seen that before, and I was glad to see it. Wanted to share it with you. So today is Manhattanhenge, just to throw in a little piece of relatively useless information. And for those who don't know what Manhattanhenge is, it is a annual event, a solar event, sort of like, eclipses and
when the
stuff
five
like that.
boroughs tell the time?
No. No. It's when, this is bizarre, it really is, when the setting sun totally aligns with Manhattan's road grid. So if you're standing on, on whatever, Fifth Avenue, it is setting right, well, that wouldn't be it because that's the wrong direction. If you're standing, I guess, on one of the cross streets, right, it would be totally, I don't know, but it totally goes down between the buildings and in the middle of the street grids. So I guess it was who's the guy? The astronomer, Dyson. He gave it this name some years ago. Obviously, doing a little turn on Stonehenge, which also is built
right,
so
right.
that. But so I don't know if it. And apparently the weather is good tonight, so it's at 8:20 or something tonight. They'll be out in the streets in Manhattan enjoying Stonehenge. Just want to say.
No, Manhattanhenge.
That's right. Manhattanhenge.
Not Stonehenge.
Neil, what's his name?
But,
it's not Neil Patrick Dyson.
Grassi.
What?
No, Neil.
How many old lady brains? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Not DeGrasse. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, Dyson.
Oh, okay.
I think how long does it take two old lady brains to come up with a?
Hey, we came up with it. Who are we on everybody? I didn't look it up. We thought of it.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. I got it now. I think. Oh, this just popped up. Pope Francis has apologized after reports said he used an offensive slang word referring to gay men at a private meeting.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God. Hey, I'll tell you, these days, if you can get through a week without having to apologize for something that escaped your mouth, having been, let's say, called out, that would be something. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
but
I was saying Dyson.
A bunch of priests is sort of weird.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. I was saying Dyson, wasn't I? Were we?
You were, and I was going, who's Dyson other than the vacuum cleaner guy?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but Milton has just told us Neil deGrasse Tyson. Little by little,
yeah,
the truth is out. So I got to tell you, it is going to be a long time before I willingly get on an airplane again. Did you see there was another scary turbulence
thing?
Yeah, this is
there were two of them over the weekend.
2 in the last week. the one that killed a few people, killed one person and seriously injured a number of others. And this one, a little less horrific, but injuries to, I guess, 8 people on the plane. And in both cases, these are a plane is just doing what planes do, and it all of a sudden just drops. And the turbulence in this new climate changed world is a real deal. So anyone who on an airplane ever takes their seatbelts off is an idiot. I just want to say
you have to always have that seatbelt securely fastened. I've always done that for just that reason.
Well, I've done it because it just seems like who wants to keep back. I don't know. It seems like a good idea. The only injured people in these cases, I'm not sure of that, but the vast majority of people who are injured are people.
They're usually not unseatbelted, so when the plane drops, they don't. They aren't attached to it. They go up.
They go up and hit their heads. Although other things go flying, right. And I guess you could have your seatbelt on and get hit by some flying object, including another passenger. Who the hell knows? But I would really be very, very careful.
Gee, that raises an interesting legal question. If you are properly belted into your seat when sitting in your seat as you are instructed to be, that when in your seat you are to keep your seat belt on, and they do tell you this. So if you don't, and then in fact you hit turbulence and you are injured by nothing except for a passenger who refused to be belted in as they were supposed to, could you sue the passenger?
I don't know. No.
It's an interesting legal question, I do think. Because I'm pretty sure that I recall hearing there is an instruction when you take off to when you are seated.
No, I think it's recommended. They recommend when you're seated, even if the seatbelt sign is off. What I think the airline should do is keep the seatbelt sign on all the time. Yeah.
It has to be on. When you are seated, you must keep your seatbelt on for your protection and those around you.
No. Period. I'm saying that the illuminated seatbelt sign, which goes on and off during
the flight, people would be afraid to go to the bathroom, which wouldn't hurt either.
Well, yeah, whatever. I just think that that's what should generally be the case. So, I want to talk about some individual humans because I was blown away. Okay.
Is that called gossip?
No, it's called, no, it's not gossip. It's information about people whose lives, in my case, one of these people is already dead, and the others are alive. But it's just that some lives are really interesting. I mean, I think almost any person's life it can be considered interesting, which I think some people might argue with me about, but I do.
No, I agree with you. All it takes is a good storyteller.
Well, yeah.
If you've lived your life, there should be plenty of interesting things in it.
Yeah, life is, interesting. So people who live have interesting lives invariably. So the one I learned from having watched a movie, and it was one of those movies that is said based on a true story. Now I've learned that when they say based on a true story, you should take it with a grain of salt and not consider it a history lesson you're watching, right? Because a lot
Well,
of
right, because they're making up more than conversations.
yeah,
They can be making up whole events.
yeah,
Yes.
just to make it a better movie, so things are. So I have to
Right.
say that, like, maybe halfway through this movie, I looked up the subject to see if what I had been essentially told so far in the movie was embellished, and it was not. And so this movie hews pretty closely to the reality. And I'd heard of this person before, but I didn't have a sense of who he was or what he'd done. His name was Mo Berg. Mo, short for Morris, which he never used, Berg. He is best known for being a Major League Baseball player. He was a catcher.
Okay.
And this is a long time ago. This is in the 30s. Yeah, all through the 30s and into the 40s. And he was still catching when other people would have. He just loved the sport, didn't want to leave. He was not particularly a great star, but he was good enough that teams kept him doing it. What was fascinating about this guy is that he held, I forget how many degrees. He had, they called him professor. He even had gotten during one summer, in one off season, he'd gotten his law degree. And he'd even practiced law a little bit. He spoke like 8 languages fluently, and another 6 or 7, he could get by. So this was not your average baseball catcher. He was an oddball and brilliant. Mo Berg. And the name of the movie is The Catcher Who Was a Spy. And it is just unbelievable how he ended up working for, our intelligence operation during World War II. And he was tasked at one point to assassinate the German scientist who was heading the Germans' atomic bomb efforts, fission bomb, a guy named Heiselberg. And it is so mind-blowing and so well done. And it does dovetail with, if you look at Wikipedia, what they'll tell you about Mo Berg. He was given later, after World War II, he was given what is the highest medal you can get? Whatever. Something presidential.
The Medal of Freedom?
Something like that, yeah. And he took it, but he never wanted to talk about it. He put it in a drawer. He was an odd man. Strange man. Charming, handsome as hell. Look him up. He good looking. And a Major League Baseball player. He never married. In the movie, they make him gay. And I think that's what everybody thought. But he never said yay or nay about being gay. But in the movie, that they do make him gay. So that's one of the, where it's unsure, but my guess is, he probably was. Fascinating character. And I'm dying to know more about him. Moe Berg, although he didn't let many people know much about himself. very private. So, got to tell you, it's a good movie. I saw it on Netflix. Paul Rudd plays Mo, and Jeff Daniels and Paul Giamatti and a bunch of other really good actors are in it, just telling you. But what a fascinating, I mean, that's not something he could tell anybody what he was doing. He was a graduate of Princeton. And as I said, there was a bunch of other, the degrees he had were just ridiculous. And the languages, the facility with language. So he got up close to this German scientist, met him, talked with him, and ended up not killing him.
That didn't kill him?
No. He said, he said he did not feel that, and the British intelligence was telling the same story, given the same information that Berg and others had gotten. They didn't think the Germans had it. They didn't have the bomb, and they weren't even close.
It wasn't worth killing him over, right?
And he turns out to have been a man who a lot of people really liked and respected, and some suggested was probably slow walking the process. But none of that is knowable. But Berg took it on himself to sort of glean it from actually engaging this guy, who in the movie knows full well that Berg is out to kill him and is stunned when he doesn't. But who knows? Great movie, which I've just ruined for you. So there's that. Now
you did sort of, didn't you?
Well, I can't.
Although if you're the kind of person that gets anxious about not knowing where the movie's going, now you can watch it without being anxious and just enjoy it.
That's right. I do recommend it. I just thought it was really good. Okay, so there's a name and an amazing life that you may not know of. And then there was a piece in the New York Times, I don't know, sometime over this long weekend, about the guy who heads Hamas. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Yahya Sinwar. He's the guy. He's the mastermind behind the horror of October 7. He's the head of Hamas in Gaza. And he spent 1989 to 2011. How many years is that? That'd be 11. That's 22 years, right? 89 to 2011. Yeah, 22 years. He was a resident in an Israeli prison. And he was let out. He was one of the people who was let out when Israel agreed to trade 1,000 Palestinian prisoners for one soldier, one Israeli soldier who was being held captive. And that's when this guy got out of prison. And he was instrumental in negotiating the release, in fact. The story is about the fact that when he was in prison, an Israeli dentist who ran the dental clinic at the prison saved his life. And they developed a relationship. So you have the Palestinian prisoner who goes on to be the head of Hamas, and you have this dentist, Yuval Bitan, who did save the guy's life. The guy was he was in unbelievable distress, going in and out of consciousness. There was other doctors that were there and couldn't figure out what was going on. And this Yuval Bitton, who came by and saw, he said, I think this guy, you just need to get him to a hospital really fast. I think something's going on in his brain. And sure enough, he was rushed to a nearby hospital. Israeli doctors performed an emergency surgery and removed what would have been a fatal tumor from his brain. So the Israelis saved this son of a bitch's life. And a few days after, the dentist visited him in the hospital. And Sinwar, the Hamas head, said, "You saved my life. This is very important in my religion. I owe you my life." How do you think this guy feels now?
I don't know. I mean, a nice way to repay him.
Well, in fact, the dentist's nephew was killed on October 7th. Now, what's fascinating, though, is that these two, and they have a picture of them when one was in prison and the other was, I mean, it's weird. They enjoyed each other's brains. They talked. While Sinwar was in prison, he ordered the killings of at least 2 other Palestinian prisoners who he thought were informing. And he talked with no problem at all. It says here he dispassionately described shooting one man, strangling another with his bare hands, suffocating a third with a kafia, and choking and punching a fourth before tossing him in a hastily dug grave. While he was so he's 20 years in this prison in Israel. What did he do with his time? Well, what we know from the dentist and others is he studied Israel. He became fluent in Hebrew. He took advantage of an online university program that they offered. He devoured Israeli news. Now, I'm thinking he was treated pretty damn well in an Israeli prison, wasn't he? I mean, really, wasn't he? Given a university education?
Well, but the person that you're describing is a sociopath.
Well, he wouldn't see it that way. The dentist says the conversations with him were not personal or emotional. They were always and only about Hamas. And he said things like, Hamas sees the land you live on as the Holy Land. It is ours. You don't have a right here. He had asked the guy, do you think, why can't you have your place and we'll have ours, a 2-state solution? And Sinwar said to him, never, because this is a land of Muslims. I cannot sign away this land. But one of the things he learned while he was in jail was he saw how complicated the Israeli population was, that it was not like, because it was a democracy.
It wasn't a monolith, yeah.
Right. And so he had said to the dentist that I will learn about you, about your country, so that I can better understand its weakness and know when to attack. And when October 7th happened, the dentist, Bitan, said that Sinwar chose to, he called him by his first name, chose to commit the atrocity, the assault. He waited till there was great division in Israel. There were huge protests, if you'll recall, over Netanyahu and his government, his right-wing government. There was an effort by the right-wingers to dilute the Supreme Court. And it was precisely this kind of democratic political turmoil that Sinwar had spoken of to the dentist years before, when he said he would wait and attack at a time of internal strife. So, I just found that fascinating. A little bit of backstory there about why then.
Yeah.
Because the guy behind Hamas is brilliant and, Susan says, probably a sociopath. But I mean, he's murderous, and he's he knows his enemy. And the enemy helped him know them. And the enemy saved his life. Anyway, the dentist these days meets regularly with the hostages' families. And he tells them, frankly, don't get your hopes up.
No, because this is not a person that has human emotions about things.
No. So I did find that a fascinating story. And if you want to read it more, it's New York Times. The headline is "The Hamas Chief and the Israeli Who Saved His Life." And they're both still alive and on opposite sides of this current horror. Hang on. I'm just trying to see my emails. Oh no, I don't. Okay. So, One Other Life. And maybe you saw this too. And this is a young American woman. Well, technically, she's still a young American girl. She's not even, she can't drink legally, and she can't vote. She's 17. And she just defended her doctoral dissertation. Isn't that astonishing?
Wow. Yeah, and what? In what?
In integrated behavioral health from Arizona State. I'm looking at a picture of her because she gave a graduation address because she was the the leading graduate too. It's a beautiful black girl. Her name is Dorothy Jean Tillman, and that is the same name as her grandmother. Well, it's Dorothy Wright Tillman, who had worked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King and who also became a Chicago alder person.
Yeah, the name is familiar.
Well, Tillman is the name. She grew up in Chicago, and she was homeschooled by her single mom while they both lived with the grandmother. And it says here that by the time she was 8, she was taking high school classes. I mean, there was, if you're the only student, I guess, and you've got this hungry brain, I mean, she just gobbled up, swallowed information whole, and her mother would just go with whatever speed she was setting. And she started college online when she was 9 years old. College courses. By 10, she'd earned.
Yeah, well, that's, think of that. Think of my eldest grandson. That's the same age.
It's just mind-blowing. At 10, she earned an associate degree in psychology. At 12, all this is online. At 12, she received her Bachelor of Science in Humanities. And at 14, she'd earned a Master of Science from Unity College in Maine. And she then launched an organization to support Black kids in Chicago interested in STEM and the arts. And that was when the pandemic started up. And then she went on to get her doctorate from Arizona State. Unbelievable. Now, the thing is, when I hear of
good
kids,
for her.
Yeah, when I hear of kids like this, I think that they're, they might be whiz kids, but they're probably socially stunted because it's not normal. She didn't go to school with other kids her own age and, and learn all the stuff you learn outside of a book in a classroom, right? And It turns out she somehow seems like that didn't happen to her. She still had friends in the neighborhood. The first person she called when she successfully defended her dissertation was she called her best friend, who is a guy a year older than her in Chicago, and with whom she went to the prom Saturday. So,
well, what this says to me is she had one hell of a mother and a grandmother who managed all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, who managed to seemingly simply, foster and aid and encourage something to grow quite naturally in all directions as fast as it wanted without being stunted. But that takes one hell of a grown up in the picture.
Yeah. Actually, her mother said she thought her daughter was finished with her higher education after earning the master's degree, like the final master's degree, and had then launched that organization to support Black kids wanting to get into STEM studies. And she was shocked when the kid said, "Hey, I want to get a doctorate." And she said, and I And she told her mother, look, trust me. And her mother said, I had to follow her lead. And she did. So this is, I don't know. Well, this is someone, a professor of psychology who's written about gifted children, is quoted as saying that kids like this have a motivational intensity that she calls a rage to master.
Right. It's a voraciousness about the hunger for knowledge that it just gets inhaled.
And and something that they are good at. And the professor goes on to say one of the reasons they push themselves is they have a high innate ability of some kind, and so learning in whatever they are gifted in comes easily to them, and it is pleasurable.
Yeah.
And for many, the trade-off is they miss out on that socialization of learning with other people their own age. But unless this story is just full of BS, she seems to be fine. So,
right. I mean, of course you can have friendships with people your own age and still pursue a different level of learning as long as the people around you are understanding of that and treat you as a regular human being. Well, then she gets the best of both worlds, and she seems to have found people that knew her to be her and just treated her like her.
Yeah. And she says what she's going to do this summer.
Which is a lesson. It's a lesson, folks. Treat people as they come to you.
Don't try to mold.
Don't try and mold. Try and affirm what's standing right in front of you, trying to blossom.
Yeah. Easier said than done, I think, for a lot.
But much easier said than done.
Yeah.
I mean, we have an instinct to want to prune and pinch.
Yeah. Just fertilize. So what is she doing this summer? She's she always is hosts a summer camp at her organization. She'll do that. But she says, I also want to have a, quote, fun teenage summer, discovering maybe new hobbies and figuring myself out. I want to focus on who I am, she said. God, she's 17.
Yeah, but she also majored in a bunch of stuff that should teach her about the importance of doing just that.
Right. In fact, yes. Correct. Whoa. But you know what? That dovetails with another story I saw. And that was that one of the rites of passage for a lot of young girls in this country when Susan and I were growing up was to babysit. It was an opportunity.
Boy, we managed to avoid that, didn't we?
I did it once. Did you ever do it?
I think I babysat for the first time when I was in college. I'd never been around such a thing as a child.
Right. I did it once and I was very, I didn't know what to do either. Well, that makes sense because, we had parents who weren't into kids either. So it was like we didn't know what to do. I don't think. Anyway, be that as it may, that's what you did. You had babysitters, right? Parents went out and they'd ask a neighborhood kid to come and sit. The kid would, make a little money and be responsible. And I have been told by this article that rarely happens anymore. Because parents aren't willing for two reasons on both sides. Parents aren't willing to leave their kids with a 12-year-old, even if they, put their kids to bed and then the 12-year-old comes and sits and has a cell phone so they can call if anything goes wrong. Parents are not inclined to leave their wondrous children with another child. And the article's interesting because it says this takes away one of the few opportunities for a young girl to, have a little bit of a job and some responsibility.
Hey, why just a young girl?
Well, because the article is all about
Boys?
that. Because, listen, if they don't want young girls anymore, you think they're going to let a boy? No.
Well,
No.
I knew a lot of boys that babysat. Yeah.
Yeah, well, none of them. It doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen. And it also says here that teens also may not be babysitting so much because, well, first of all, parents are looking for professionals, or at least older people, and more than 2/3, listen to this, more than 2/3 of American parents think that children should be 12 or older before they're left home alone. So the kids that we would have as babysitters would now be considered in need of a babysitter.
Right.
That's how much things have changed. And several states, including Illinois, children can legally not be left unattended until they're 14. I think
14?
that is it. That's Illinois law, and it's not the only one. That is nuts. Nuts. And this in a day and age when we have a surveillance state, when parents can essentially be there. You can even if you're gone, the kid can, if you want to spy on your kid, boy, you're in heaven now. Wow. I just find that mind-blowing. No wonder kids aren't growing up.
Yeah, no wonder when you're still a kid when you're 30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I was thinking the other day, I think I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure there are, people say, well, I've seen, but in my neighborhood, I do not see kids, teenagers, or any like 11, 10 and up. I don't see kids doing any like mowing of grass, taking out of garbage, work, that shoveling snow. I never, ever see it. And why is that?
Does everybody have people to do those things?
Mostly, yes. Too bad.
See, if you've hired a service, then your kids don't learn to do it. But my question is, why do you hire a service when you have kids?
Exactly right. And you can give them a job and responsibility.
Do you know that it turns out that one of the things my son always resented the most was that we never owned a lawnmower, because in St. Louis there was always someone, that just showed up and mowed your lawn. I mean, there was no reason to have it. And he just resented never.
What do you mean, Susan? Somebody didn't magically appear and mow your lawn. So you're saying?
Yeah. The guy that I hired did sort of magically appear and
Oh, but
said,
you did
"I do
hire
everybody
someone.
else in your neighborhood. Do you want me to do your?"
Okay,
Oh
yeah. So you hired
but
someone. So you didn't need a lawnmower.
I hired somebody. I didn't need a lawnmower, and it. I mean, the kid's a grown up, and that's when I found out that one of the worst things I ever did to him was not own a lawnmower.
Because he would have loved to do that.
Because he would have he thought he was missing a childhood,
A great experience. Thing. Well, when I first moved into this neighborhood, and I was shoveling snow, this old guy toddled over from across the street and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm shoveling the snow." He said, "No one shovels their own snow." And I said, "What?" I mean, but it was true. Nobody on that street shoveled their own snow. Jeez.
Well, the lawn guy in the winter did your.
I know.
Did your driveway.
I still do it all. I don't have people doing that. And I'm an old lady. What is with these people?
Well.
Come on.
And now my son does it for everybody on the block because he so misses it.
Now he finally has a lawnmower and he can use it. But I wonder. I worry about kids. I do. So there's a.
Well, I mean, I would suggest that they are not growing up without little jobs and tasks. I'm watching grandchildren. I can see that that's part of their life.
Yeah, but things have changed now. And this article also said this. I think this is from the Atlantic. That's usually where I get these sort of interesting pieces on what's different now. In regard to not babysitting, it says a lot of this is because of our new intensive parenting approach. And a lot of parents are concerned about their children using this is, and here's something that drives me insane, using every spare moment to enrich themselves. And I think that's a perfect word, because it's not just enrich themselves in it's to give them a leg up so that they're going to be richer or a better job or a better school. So she said many families don't want their kids wasting time watching TV or even just playing. They want them learning piano lessons or language, blah, 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 some scheduled activities. And see, I think kids are way too scheduled these days.
Well, I've always thought that. One thing. Yeah, and then the rest of the time, your brain just needs to sit around and digest and think and be bored and all sorts of other things. I think that's important, but I would argue that a lot of this intensive parenting is because we've got a ton of families where the kids are put in daycare at 3 months. And spend most of their time with other adults and very little time with their actual parents. And when their parents are finally with their children, they feel, for all sorts of reasons, why that they want to have, for that time to be impactful.
But it'd be impactful if all they did was play. If they played with them.
Well, sure it would, and that's the decision that some people make. But I'm just saying that to my mind, a lot of what is pushing the current style of parenting and babysitting and not babysitting and all of that stuff is the limited amount of time that parents have with their children, because they're both working and the kids are in daycare or school.
But stop and think, Susan. I mean, the fact is that our mother wasn't working, And she didn't.
Oh no, we relied on that.
I mean, it wasn't that she spent time with us. I mean, no.
No.
Quite the opposite.
No, I was going to say it's quite the opposite. Abandonment comes to mind.
But to our benefit. I don't know. Anyway, Beth writes, I think it's easy to be critical of parents, that's for sure, who are in the thick of parenting. You know, I would no more want a parent in this day and age than I'd want, you know, to be tortured. I can't even imagine it. Every family's different, says Beth. And we live in a walking district where kids of all ages walk to school by themselves. Where the hell's that? It does empower them with independence, and it's great for them. Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, but my kid grew up in this neighborhood. He walked to school when he was a little guy. I didn't walk him to school. It was 2 blocks away. I suppose I'd be considered a terrible parent. Dear God, I don't understand it. I just really don't understand it. People live in fear, I think. Or in some states, if your kid is seen walking by himself or herself, they're considered, they'll call the cops, will be called, and you'll find yourself, dealing with the authorities.
That happened in New York.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Any parent who wants to do old-fashioned parenting and let their kids roam and you know, it's incredible. So anyway, there's that, and we're out of time. Suze, where are you going to be tomorrow?
I'm hoping I'm still in Green Bay.
Okay. Just to take a break. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard to stay right here.
Well,
I can almost hear again out of my left ear. I can almost, I can almost breathe again.
Yeah. Well.
And all I want to say is I feel young until I try and act like it.
Oh, God. Well, I think one of the things and I was thinking this after I talked to you and Mom the other night on FaceTime, that I think we get, because Mom is still there, I think we don't realize how old we are.
Well, I think that's part of it. I mean, I still have my mommy.
Yeah. And she's she's doing, I don't think we.
No, we went out to the cemetery yesterday and said hi to everybody, and she looks at me, she goes, well, I'm going to be here soon. And I looked at her, I started laughing. I said, well, that's what you said 2 decades ago. You'll get here when you get here, Mom. We're just trying not to beat you.
That's all. Trying not to beat you.
So.
Okay, Suze, well, I hope you feel better and keep your head down and your phone off. Okay?
I'm trying. I'm hiding under my bed. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay. So I guess that's it for this session. And now I'll go and do what I suppose some of you are doing, which is gobble up whatever, is coming out of the final arguments in the Trump trial. Good God help us. I don't know.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.